What's going on, guys? Okay, so you just got your PS2P and you want to know how to load games on there and how to do all that stuff. So generally, when you buy a PS2P, it has like one game on it for testing purposes, and then you're going to see a file structure like this when you plug in the USB stick or the SD card, right? So loading games on there is very simple. You won't have all this crap. You'll just have this stuff here. You probably won't have a boot folder or a swap magic folder, since I did that myself, or a ROMs folder. So you'll just have the basic format structure for OPL, which is apps, art, boot. No, not boot. Apps, art, CD, config. I don't even know if config dev is there. Well, I don't even know what the hell this is. I never even used it. CHT, DVD, which is the most important. Pops, LNG. I don't know what is that. Probably language or something. ROMs is not going to be there. THM is there, and VMC. Okay, none of the rest of the stuff will be there. So it'll be a basic format. When you go into DVD, you're probably going to see like one ISO, which was there for testing purposes before it's shipped out to make sure everything's working up to par, and that's about it. And it's probably going to be formatted like this, or it'll just say ISO. All right, so the first thing you need to do now, before you even watch this tutorial, first of all, this is a live broadcast, so you can feel free to ask me any questions if you happen to be on at this time. But I am not a tutorial guy, so this is not going to be as professional as any other tutorial. This is just because I haven't really seen many tutorials on how to do these things with the PS2P specifically, but it should be more or less the same as a regular PS2 that happens to have OPL already set up. Now, let me tell you a few things. So the OPL that's set up on the PS2P is on the memory card. So if you have an old version of OPL on the memory card, which you more likely will have, you can just download the latest OPL version, make a boot folder, just call boot here, and then put that latest OPL version in this folder, which is usually a ELF file, which would be like opl.elf or OPL version blah blah blah.elf. You can just find it on the internet, the latest OPL. It's very easy. And then you rename it to boot.elf, all in capital letters. What does this do? So what this does is it'll allow your PS2P to boot automatically into whatever's in the boot folder, because it prioritizes the boot folder over whatever's in the memory card. So that's why I have a boot folder here with boot.elf. That's actually OPL latest one, but I didn't want to get rid of the original OPL that the PS2P started off with. So if you don't want to mess with anything or replace any files or do something accidentally and end up being confused about what's happening with the PS2P, or if it doesn't boot or something, you got rid of something that you shouldn't have, then this is basically like a way that you can get the latest OPL without having to mess with anything else. Now, there's a shortcut on the PS2P where you hold R1. If it doesn't boot into this version and it'll just continue to boot the other thing, you hold R1 and up while you're booting up the PS2P, and it'll go to the whatever's in the boot folder automatically and load the latest OPL. Okay, now that that's out of the way, something you don't have to do, is just optional. I just want to show you guys. So you're gonna have an apps folder. In the apps folder, you put whatever apps you want to put. So you see what I did. I put Game Boy Advance, which is a Game Boy Advance emulator. Everything is ELF file, okay? And so the Game Boy Advance emulator, if you're looking for adding Game Boy Advance, it'll be an ELF file. And you want to put that in the apps folder and any other emulators you want. So we got Pico Drive, which is the emulator for Sega Genesis, I believe. It's been a little bit since I set this up. So I believe that's Sega Genesis. And then I have another OPL version, which is an OPL variant that, if you guys saw my last video, is perfect for that emulator ISO that I had set up. And then you got SNES, which is the Super Nintendo emulator. So once you load this emulator, you're also going to need ROMs, right? That's where this comes in. You don't have to put it in this folder. I just created a ROMs folder. This way everything is more, organized. So in the ROMs folder, I have the Game Boy Advance ROMs. You know, this is a whole ROM set here. So we don't have to go through that. Sega Genesis, the whole ROM set. These games are relatively small, so you're not going to have a space issue putting a whole ROM set of old retro games. And we got Super Nintendo. Okay, so, and that's pretty much it. Now you got your emulators. Oh, and in order to add apps, so to the apps folder, you put the apps in the apps folder, sure. But then you have to make sure that you got to make a new text file called config, conf_apps.cfg. And this is to add any apps, so any homebrew to the apps folder. So you add it to the apps folder, and you want to make sure the path is right here. You have to use this file structure. So mass0 is your USB stick or SD card, however you have the PS2P set up. So in the text file, you're gonna make this, whatever titles you have. So under apps here, right? I have OPL. You see OPL 0.92.elf. And I just call it OPL emulators. So on the PS2P, it shows up in a menu on the apps called OPL emulators. And then you're just going to follow this format equals mass0, right? And then /apps. That's basically telling it to look in this path for this elf file. And you got to do that with everything that you add into the apps folder. So Sega Genesis is picodrive.elf, and you just follow the same format with everything. Super Nintendo, mass0, and then apps, SNES. And then you should be able to see it in the list, no problem. Jeep, Game Boy Advance. Remember, and if it's in folders, you got to make sure you add those folders. So this is apps GBA, you see? And then we got Game Boy Advance.elf. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Caps do matter. It doesn't show up if it's not capitalized the exact same way that it is here. You see how elf is capitalized. And that's how you get your apps to show up, which is your emulators, your third-party homebrew software if you wanted to do that. So now you know how to add emulators, and that's all you have to do. Add emulators and add ROMs. And that's how you test out the emulators and ROMs. But now I guess you're wondering what's all of this crap. So all of this crap, okay, all of this is games that were more than 4 gigabytes. So if you go to the DVD folder, right? These are all the PS2 games I have on here right now. As far as that's less than 4 gigs. If we sort by size, the biggest game is 3.9 gigs. Onimusha Warlords, right? So anything that's 3.9 gigs or lower, you can literally just drag and drop the ISO into the DVD folder. And there's an app called Fix ISO. You could just Google it and it'll come up because I don't have all this stuff in front of me. Fix ISO, you click that and it'll fix all the ISO file names where it's formatted correctly with the sluice in front of it and the Shadows of Colossus. Now, this is not necessary for every game, but I noticed that some games don't run correctly if it's named incorrectly. Like if it has any special characters or anything like that, this will automatically fix that. But it's not the only way to do it. There's another way to do it, and that's to get the OPL. Is it OPL Manager? OPL Manager. So I have OPL Manager here, so I can show you guys the file structure here. Okay. All right, we're not gonna update it, but I have a bad ISO. Why'd they lie to me? PS2 MAME. Yeah, I never added. So PS2 has a MAME emulator. And there was an ISO I had recently got. And I don't remember. It was a little while ago when I was setting all this up. I mean, you can see June 2019. Yeah, so it was a little while ago when I first started setting this up, so I don't remember everything correctly. But I remember there was a MAME emulator, PS2 MAME, and this is an ISO that had 174 MAME ROMs. So you can run ROMs from ISOs that are put together just with a whole bunch of ROMs in it. They have those custom ISOs. MAME ran like crap, so it's really not worth getting involved in explaining. But I wouldn't recommend MAME. NES, Atari, Sega Master System, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, Sega Genesis, Game Boy Advance. Those simple emulators run fine. I mean, it's not perfect because the PS2 is not perfect emulation device, but it's good for PS1 and PS2. Those are just extra. Now, what this is, OPL Manager. So you use this app to, it'll rename. You see where it says bad ISO? Here you can update the file name and fix it. See, I don't have that actually there anymore, so I don't know why it's showing up. I probably have a data file for it. As you see, it's 0 bytes. But anything, so when you drag and drop your ISOs into the DVD folder, and then you use OPL Manager and browse that DVD folder, all your ISOs will come up here, right? It won't have any artwork or anything like that, but all your ISOs will come up here. If it says bad ISO, that means you need to rename it. And if you don't have fixed ISO, that exe, what's going to happen is all those things are going to come up error. Oh, something wrong with this name. Oh, I got special characters. And you can actually fix it from here individually. You could try to update file name or something like that, or rename the file to something short that you're going to remember, like Castlevania. Instead of Lament Innocence, just put Castlevania.iso, and then open up OPL Manager and update the name. It's going to go in, it's going to look in the file's ISO and know the actual name of the game, and it'll format it to the right format automatically, rename it and everything. Slews, Castlevania, blah, blah, blah. So file name is not going to be a huge issue. But also I recommend, I know I'm going all over the place with this because I'm not a tutorial guy. I'm just trying to help some people that ask me some ideas or tips on how to set up the PS2P the normal way. I mean, the best way. And I'm just trying to help people out. Really bad at tutorials. I'm just better at, like, you know, playing games. Okay, so let's go back to this. What I was going to say is I would recommend, instead of doing all of this through the USB drive, just make a folder and just drag and drop those files off of your USB. And you're going to make a folder that's, you know, just called PS2, and then have this set up, right? And then you do all your work here. The reason why I say that is because I've noticed that doing work directly on the USB drive, the very USB drive that you're going to keep plugging in and taking out from the PS2P, will cause errors in the clusters, and then some games will suddenly not load after a while. It'll be like it'll say it needs it needs to be defragged, and defragging a USB stick is no bueno, because eventually the USB stick will just die and stop working. So I realized that just dragging and dropping everything after you're done, like if you do all this in a separate folder that has nothing to do with the USB, and then after everything is done, after everything's converted, everything's, you know, spelled correctly, set up, you then just drag and drop it to your, format your USB first to FAT32, and then just drag and drop everything and just wait. Everything will run fine with no errors. But if you just keep moving stuff, unplugging your USB, moving stuff, unplugging your USB, trying to convert games directly to the USB, it causes like errors in the clusters, and eventually all of a sudden you're not going to be able to run games that you ran before, because they're going to say, oh, error, this USB needs to be defragged. So to avoid all that, it's worked for me. I've, you know, done it a few times for people also, and it's worked just fine if you just make a folder. I think I actually have a folder here somewhere on one of these drives that I did that, and I just kept it. Okay, going back to here, I just wanted to throw that out there. If you're gonna, you know, follow any of this tutorial or any other PS2 tutorial, just do it on a regular, in a regular folder. Don't do it through the USB drive. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna have some problems. Okay, so this is all the PS2 and PS1 games. So I haven't explained PS1 games yet, but yeah, let's get back to this. So you already know, like I told you, drag and drop all your PS2 games here. Then when you go to PS1 games, it's a little different. All your PS1 games must be in VCD format. And now, you know how PS1 games are. Some of them are ISOs. Some of them are bins and queues. Some of them are some crazy formats. Okay, so all you have to do with that is you have to get this app. Let me see if I have it here somewhere. It's called PS2 VCD or some crap like that. Sorry, I wasn't really prepared for this as much as I wanted to be because I kind of wanted to get this out of the way. I have the software somewhere here. PS2. Let me just type it in here. VCD. No? PS2. Anyway. It's somewhere on this computer. I just saw it, actually. I don't know what the hell I did say. I got too much stuff on this computer. I got to make some space. And I've been slacking on that because I've been so busy. Okay, here it is. This is the downloads folder. Okay, so PSX VCD, right? Let's extract this. So I did this a long time ago, so it's not like it's fresh in my mind. Okay, yeah, it's an installation, so I don't want to install this right now. But basically, you could just look on Google. It's very easy to find. PSX VCD setup, and what this will do is it'll convert any of your PS1 games, to VCD format regardless of the original format. All you have to do is browse it, say convert all these games, select them all. These are my PS1 games. It'll convert them all to VCD, right? And then once they're converted to VCD, then all you have to do is drag and drop them into the POPs folder, which is going to already be there, right? Don't worry about this stuff. These are all saves. So the saves will save there too. So once you convert all of them to VCD format, you could just simply drag and drop them. And there's not going to be any 4 gigabyte games. So you don't have to worry about the bottleneck of having a maximum of 4 gigabytes, having to split the files because PS1 games are all CD games. So that's less than 700 megs or 700 megs. So anyway, as you see here, I got a whole bunch of PS1 games. So you just drag and drop them there. You have to get the BIOS files for PS1, which is popstarter.elf. Well, that's the PS1 emulator, basically. But you want to put that in here with the PS1 games. And this one say pops_iox.pack. Google that. I can't provide you where I got that from. Actually, I don't remember anyway, even if I could. And the art folder is what OPL creates. So when you go to OPL, you browse. When you put this on your USB drive, OPL is going to pick it up. OPL Manager, which is this. And then as you see, you're going to see your PS1 games here as well as the PS2 games. All right, so you've done that. You've converted all your PS1 games. You got the popstarter.elf and popsiox.pack, which is usually together. And you put that in the same folder, right? So what OPL Manager is going to do, they're going to generate when you open it up in here, and OPL Manager renames the files like it just did. Like I was telling you about, this has to be renamed also. It'll automatically do it in OPL Manager. If it doesn't, you can click here and say try to update file name, or you could do it manually, right? So once it formats it correctly where OPL Manager is going to read it, you already know. You don't even have to put it in your PS2 portable yet. You will already know that this is going to work because it wouldn't show up in here. This is basically OPL. And there's a way you can actually preview it too, and what it would look like in OPL. Some kind of way around here that I don't recall. It's been, like I said, it's been a long time, guys, so bear with me since I messed with this. Something in here allows you to see what it would look like on your PS2. Remember it being very simple. Let me see here. Game Gallery Simulator. Okay, there it is. This is how it would look on your PS2 if you did all the converting correctly. The only difference is it won't be all bunched up together like, PS1 game Nightmare Creatures and PS2 Nightshade. It's going to be a separate thing. It's going to say PS1. And it's going to be all PS2 games, and you press right and it's going to be all PS1 games. And if you take a look at my video that I made before this about the PS2P, you're going to see how I have it set up when you enable PS1 and PS2 in the settings, and then you'll be able to see them both, and apps. If you enable apps, you'll be able to use the emulators. So, okay. So now that you've done all that, now you're just going to have a whole bunch of stuff with no pictures, no data, no folders. So you can scrape all of the images and all of that just very easily. All you have to do is, oh, by the way, this is the apps. So remember, you have to enable PS1 and apps in OPL, just the same way I showed you guys in the last video, or you won't be able to see all of these things once you get into your PS2. Okay? So anyway, to get the artwork and stuff is very easy. Now that everything's in this section and you have no bad ISOs because you renamed everything and everything's showing up here correctly, all you have to do is go to Tools, and no, I'm lying. It's not Tools. Art Download. Okay, so go to Batch Actions, go to Art Download, right? I mean, this is optional if you want to do this and you want it to look nice and stuff and you want to enable artwork. And all you have to do is download cover art. Check everything here, download the screenshot, random background, and download the right logo for each game and press start, and it'll scrape all of the games and download all of the images just like in RetroPie, right? And the ones that it doesn't do that to, like this is a custom ISO. That means it doesn't really exist, but you can manually do it. You can put manage art. All I did was find this image on Google. I said, oh, this looks like a collage of games. And this is a ISO that has multiple games. So I just threw that on there and found it on Google, added it there. It says it has to be 640 by 480. This has to be another thing. It automatically do it. Okay. Or you could download any individual artwork for each individual game if you want to, the same way. I never mess with Cheat Editor or any of this other crap, so I can't really give you any information on that. But anyway, once you download all the artwork, now you have it looking great and beautiful just like this, right? And that's just for the games that's less than 4 gigs. So right now you should know how to add games that are less than 4 gigs and all PS1 games, right? But hey, what about games that are over 4 gigs? PS2 has a lot of 4 gigabyte games. Very easy. Let's minimize this. That's where all of this crap comes in, okay? So ul.config, right? Oh, and I forgot to tell you guys, after you do this in a text file and put the paths for the apps, you want to save it and rename it to config, see? CFG. Otherwise, OPL is not going to read it. So it just has to be config. Anyway, like I said, I know my tutorial is all over the place, but bear with me here. I'm not a master YouTuber and all that stuff. So, yeah. Okay. So now to get your games that are more than 4 gigs, you want to download this app called USB Util. Also Google it. Very easy to find. I mean, I would just help you out and find it for you and put it in the description, but it's very easy. You just Google it and it'll come up. Preferably version 2.2 English, okay? So you won't be confused because there's a lot of weird versions and in a lot of random languages, okay? So once you have USB Util, okay, you've got all your less than 4 gig games, you got your PS1 stuff. Now it's time to add your 4 gigabyte games. And what you do here is, so you have your ISOs. All you have to do is, you don't need to open game list because you didn't have a game list. So you'll be like create game from ISO, right? And then you browse your ISOs. So I don't think I have ISOs on here, but I don't want to waste a lot of time trying to convert it. But okay, so here you're gonna browse the game that you're gonna browse whatever folder. Okay, so I have Hyperspin here. I have Hyperspin here with some ISOs, so I guess I can technically get to the part where you can add ISOs. So let's go to arcade. Give it a second because it has to load up my drive. I have a 10 terabyte drive with a whole bunch of stuff on it. PS2 is just one of the things that's on there. Just want to give you guys an example. Okay, we got Sony PS2, right? Browse that. ROMs. And unfortunately, the only game that I have that's not RAR'd, that's not in a compressed format, is God of War in that whole directory of PS2 games. But so it's still a good example. So this game, God of War, is 7.93 gigs. And God of War 2 is 7.94. Obviously, more than 4 gigs. And FAT32 is this file system, so you cannot move anything that's more than 4 gigs. So what you do, you click that ISO, and then you click the destination of the converted ISO. So it's going to convert it. It's going to split it into one of these kind of things. You see how this is, all of this is one game. All of this is one game. So it's going to convert all of these things. And I would recommend, like I told you in the middle of this video, make a separate folder for this and don't convert it directly to the USB stick. It's a mistake I've made, and through all the trials of learning this program and all that, and you know what, it led to a lot of stupid, unnecessary errors. So in order to save you guys the trouble of having to go through that crap, just make a folder, the same folder where you have all your PS2 games that I told you to make a whole new folder with this whole file structure, and browse that folder for where you're going to put your ISOs. And then you could just select them all, hold control, and just select every game that you want to convert, because it may take a while, but it takes even longer if you're doing it to a FAT32 formatted USB stick. At least if you have an SSD or you have something like that on your hard drive, you can convert multiple, and it'll be significantly shorter and won't have any errors. So after you select all the things you want to convert, you select the folder here that you want to convert it to. Let's say your thing is on the D drive arcade folder, right? Let's say that's where your PS2s are. And then just click create. And what it's going to do is going to have a loading bar. It'll create it will convert all the 4 gigabyte games. And then once it does that, it'll create a UL file in that same folder, UL, you see? And then when you get all your games converted, it's going to look like this. It's going to be all these thousands of files, ul.ul.ul. And you need that UL file. Otherwise, none of the games is going to work. You can't have more than one UL file. So you have to convert all the games to the same directory. All your 4 gigabyte games to the same directory. And obviously, you do not want to go over the threshold of however big your USB stick is. So if you have 256 gigs, and you select all the ISOs that you have, and you go to properties and you see that it's more than 256 gigs on top of everything else that's in there, you want to go under that, because if you start taking games out, you're going to start confusing the system, because it's going to think a game is there and it's not. And you can't simply go into here and edit this, because it's formatted for PS2 to understand. You ain't going to be able to edit that. So only convert the games that you for sure know that you're going to be able to, see. If you want, you can convert 1 game at a time or 5 games at a time, but then check the, see how big it is and how much space it takes up. But you don't want to go over or even extremely close to the maximum capacity of your USB stick. So me particularly, in that video that I showed you guys, I have a 256 gig drive. There are other drives that work with PS2 that are bigger. I haven't tested them. I can only tell you about the SanDisk Cruiser USB 2.0, 256 gig. That works just fine. And, I would leave some room on there for other stuff, like for the system to work. Okay, so once you converted all that, right, it's going to show a list here. So what I'm going to do is open the game list, open games ul.config. So let's say you converted all of that and you want to convert more, and you close out the program already. So all you have to do is browse, go to your folder that you have all that stuff, and it's going to automatically pull up your ul.config. When you load it, it's going to show you all your 4 gigabyte games that's converted here that you can't tell from looking at this, because it's not named anything. It's named in a correct format for the system to read. So if you see here, all of these are over 4 gigs, and these are all the games I have on there. So we got Soul Calibur 2, Resident Evil 4, Tales of Destiny, Silent Hill, blah, 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 right? Star Ocean. So all of these games are 4 gigabyte games and over. So all you have to do is, so you'll see all your games here. And then if you wanted to add more, all you have to do is the same thing I just showed you, create game from ISO, and, so on and so forth. It'll add it to this list, and that's it, right? Now that you've done that and you see that it's in this list with no weird errors or something like that, now all you have to do is close this out, right? And you're doing all this externally. You're not doing this on your USB. You're going to drag and drop everything to your USB after we're done. So after you do that, reopen OPL, right? And then when you reopen OPL, and if everything is in the same folder, it should look just like this, minus Swap Magic, which I did for my actual PS2. You don't need that. This is something I did extra for my physical PS2, not my portable PS2, but my physical PS2, so I could use the same USB stick to play games on the original PS2 instead of having to be stuck using only the portable. I could just swap, change the drive. That's why I have Swap Magic here, because also I have DVDs and anyway, so you won't have Swap Magic. You'll have the boot folder. So anyway, so you'll have all of these things, right? So after you're done, open up OPL Manager again. It'll automatically recognize all your PS1 games. It'll automatically recognize all your 4 GB or more PS2 games. See, even though it's converted in that format, this format is understandable by OPL Manager. And once you open that here, you want to download the rest of the artwork, the ones that you're missing. Don't put replace if exists, otherwise it's going to download artwork that you already have, and it's a waste of time. Just put any, and if you have all of these checked, it'll skip all the ones you already have, and it'll scrape all the artwork, and it'll download all the artwork for the games that you're missing. And now you have all your PS2 games, you have all your PS1 games, you got all your ROMs, all that stuff, all good and gravy, right? So before you move it to your USB drive, if you look at my USB drive, I still have 41.3 gigs free. That's because I wanted to keep, I wanted to give it room to breathe. So out of 256 gigs, you only could use 232. And then I have 41.3 gigs free. And I have absolutely no errors. Okay. So when you realize that you have less than the amount of space that it takes for your drive, all you have to do is copy all of this stuff. Oops. What am I doing? Or you could just put select all. Oh, it's not there. Bastards. Okay, so let's just select all like that. Right? Make sure it's under that amount of the drive that you have, whatever. Right? And then just drag and drop it to your USB stick. And that's it. Now you're all set. When you boot up OPL, you have all the artwork and all that stuff. But you go through the settings first to make sure that you have that enabled. Because in OPL settings, you can also disable artwork. Hey, maybe you don't want it to load, take so long to load, and you want to disable all the artwork. But if you do it the way I just showed you and then just drag and drop it, you shouldn't have any errors. If you do it the other way, the way they tell you to do it on many videos and the way many people do it, you're going to get this stupid thing that tells you have to defrag the drive. And you could look it up. Defragging a USB stick is going to ruin it and destroy it, maybe stop it from reading. And it could take a very, very long time, especially if you're using a 256 gig. It'll take a long time and it may not even do anything. So to avoid having to go through defragging, do all your moves all at once. There's no reason to, convert it and then test it in the PS2 and then bring it back here and then add another game and then test it in the PS2. Don't make the stupid mistakes I made when I first got it. And that's why I'm making this video, so it doesn't, so I can probably save people some time of making the same silly mistakes I did when I first got this device. So hopefully this helped some people out. Again, I'm not a tutorial guy. I just trying to help some people out that got the PS2P or has a PS2 with OPL. And, this is probably not the best tutorial in the world, but hey, it'll get the job done. All right, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side or another time. And hopefully my mic is working and everything is heard and I don't have to go back and be saddened by what I see later on. All right.